Welcome to the Delta Wordweavers. So we welcome you on February 12th, and one and all are welcome to be here. So we have some poems and personal and classic to tell. We have stories to tell, lighthearted, deeply felt. So there's just quite a mix that we have to enjoy today. Bobby Kincaid is going to start us off, and she has a poem to read. Bobby, welcome to our Wordweavers in February. You're muted. Still muted.
There
you are.
Give me a second. I have to go back to my poem. All right.
Okay.
It's a love poem, A Tree's Love. I stand, I breathe, and you breathe. The wind dances through me, and you watch. I sing, you listen. I invite you to climb into my branches. As a child, you climbed, remember? You set far out on a limb, and I supported. I stood strong. You flew in the air. You dreamed, I nourished. Others came. Some flew, some climbed, some crawled. As you watched, we grew. When growing, you left my branches. Now always you walk and stand under me, absorbing my strength and height. Today, still one with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Oh, you know what I failed to do was spotlight you.
It's fine. It's fine.
Well, that's something that I have a hard time doing with everything else going on. I'm the next teller. You all knew how much, and know even today, Sarah Lord from Tennessee has rain going on. And in California, we've had rain, 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 especially in January. In January, there was so much rain at my church, it's flooded the rugs, and we're still dealing with it. There was so much rain. But I'm here to tell you about January 13th, that rainy, rainy day. I had a Friends of the Library, Antioch Library, meeting that day. I had to get to my meeting, but my car was out of commission. I've got to get to the library to my meeting. So I decided, rain or not, I'm going to go to that meeting. And I started out walking, but no, I came right back in and put on my raincoat. So I got on my coat and I started outside, but it was raining so much, like, I've got to have a hat, I thought. I looked around and I found the morning newspaper. The morning newspaper. Oh, yes. And I took it. And, well, I started folding it up. I've got to have a hat. So I folded it up, made a brim on it, and I had a rain hat. Yes. So I went out in my rain hat and I'm walking down James Donlin over to Lone Tree. I'm passing by the church, but I know it's got wet rugs. I just left that alone because I'm on the way to the library. So I'm walking down, and pretty soon after the freeway, it turns into A Street. A Street. I'm walking halfway down A Street to 18th, and oh my gosh, the ABC business building, it's on fire. Oh my goodness. You know, I'm going to, so I got my phone and I called for the fire department. And they were going to come, but the flames, they were at the window. I found another newspaper and I rolled it up and I had a hose, so I helped put out that fire down on the bottom floor. And then I heard, oh my gosh, there's a cat up there. I've got to help get that cat down, but I can't do all this in a rain hat. I've got to have a fireman's hat. So I took my hat and I folded it. Sorry, folded it up. So I had a fireman's hat. Yes, sir, we have that fireman's hat, and I'm putting it out. And then that cat, I've got to save that cat. So I got to get my hat up here. What am I going to, he's up so high, I've got to have a ladder. So I put down my hose and I went to get another newspaper and I rolled it up and then I started cutting it. I started cutting up my hose and I'm cutting around and around and I pulled it up on one side. So I had a ladder. I got up to that cat and I rescued the cat. I've rescued the cat. Oh my gosh. I took him over to a porch and set him down, and that porch was dry for him and it had little food. I think it was waiting for him. He was lost in that big building. So I put him down and then I heard the fire sirens. They'll take care of the rest of the fire. So I got to get to my meeting. I got to get there on time. I started walking the rest of the way down 18th, down A Street before I turned left on 18th Street. And I'm only 3 blocks from the library. And by this time it had rained so much. Oh, my hat is just drenching me. And I think, gosh, I'm just sloshing in all this water. My feet are getting wet and the streets flooding and the gutters are flooding, but I've got to get to my meeting. But this reminded me of when I was little. I used to wonder what it would be like to be a pirate. Yes, I'm going to be a pirate. Well, today I'm going to be a pirate. Going to the library. Do they go to the library? Sailing, sailing. How can I sail if I don't have a boat? Oh my goodness, I don't have a boat. Well, I'm going to get myself a boat. So indeed, got my sailor hat here. I worked on it. No, shoot, that's it. Going that way. Working that hat. And I had a boat. And I am sailing only 3 blocks from the library. And I'm sailing on my boat. And the wind came up. The wind came up and it crashed into a fire hydrant. Too late for the other fire, but it tore the front of my boat off. Oh my gosh. And then the wind whirled my boat and it bumped into a parked car. I am on the street just a few blocks from the library. Now I'm 2 blocks from the library. And you know that big old tree that just leans down? Well, I ducked it when I was sailing past it, but that branch tore off the top of my boat. I am 2 blocks from the library. And what happens to a boat with so many holes in it? Of course, you know what happens, but don't worry, because I have a life jacket. I brought my life jacket, and now I've only got 2 blocks, and I made it to the library, to the Friends of the NAF Library, on time. Yes, sirree. My life jacket saved me. Thank you. I'm hunting for my spots. Okay. There we go. Back to gallery. Thank you. All right. Edgar is our next storyteller. And he has something to share with us. So we welcome him from Southern California. Thank you, Edgar.
Okay. Okay, well, about 20 years ago, became a barista in a coffee shop. And you know how pouring the drinks, you know how the cappuccinos would be a lot more foam, and the lattes had just a little bit of foam on top. And so I was trained by a young girl working in this coffee shop. We ended up connecting very well. Spent a lot of time together, but was with somebody else. So we lost contact. And about 17 years later, sent her a message on social media. And she got back to me, and I went to visit her. And we had a nice time. And we ended up going back and forth from Riverside to Arizona, and then meeting each other's families in Wisconsin, in Utah, and all the other. We are taking all these trips, all these places, and we ended up staying at this place called the Mission Inn. I don't know if it's called the Mission Inn. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's a really beautiful hotel. But this is during the time of COVID, and everything became shut down. We couldn't, this is a beautiful hotel, but they had no amenities. I think that's the right word. And so we couldn't really do anything in the hotel, which is a little depressing. So we walked the streets, looking all around, trying to find a place to have a couple of beers, celebrate our time together. Then we got more close, and she ended up going on dialysis. So I ended up becoming her care partner. And we had to go through the whole system I had to learn how to take solution bags, put heparin in the bags, figuring out how to do all the tube stuff, work this machine with all these different steps, going through all these, every step, 1 through 7, learning how to heat the bags, and then it would go into her body in different ways, solution going in, draining out, filling up, dwelling in there for a while, all this different kind of process. But it really helped bring us even more closer together. So we ended up, we've been together ever since. And so it's a very short story, but basically we have a peritoneal romance, a loving between the tubes, you might want to say. And that's my story. Thank you.
A story of commitment. Thank you. And you're right. Those problems can bring people together because you're, committed together to help each other. And that's the love. Thank you for sharing, Edgar. Our next teller is Michelle. And welcome, Michelle. Share us your story.
Okay, my story takes place some years ago.
Okay,
Back in
could
the
you
summer
pause just a minute?
Mhm.
Wait, Michelle, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm getting removing from I'm not co-hosting well. All right. Okay, I'm ready for Michelle. Thank you.
Okay. It was the summer of 1974. two siblings, a brother and sister, George and Grace, were on their way to San Francisco for a concert of a very renowned musician who was very popular in their community, and for good reason, which we'll get to later. Now, George and Grace gave the Ticketmaster their tickets, found a spot in the crowd, and waited with bated breath for the musician to arrive on the stage. And when this singer arrived on the stage, he just immediately crackled with energy, the same energy that George felt when he heard the musician in his radio advertisements on the radio. And he and his sister Grace were singing and along to the songs and really getting pumped up with the energy of the crowd. And they had a great time seeing one of their idols on stage, hearing him live and singing along, and it just had real fun. And after the show was over, George approached the MC asking if it was possible he could get to the backstage area and share a scrapbook he made for the musician, because George had developed a hobby of perusing through magazines like Jet and Ebony and Tiger Beat for celebrities and other well-known people in the African American community and making scrapbooks of them. And the MC says, "I'm sorry, he's really tired right now, but we're staying at the Hyatt Regency. You can meet us there if you like." Now, mind you, security was not as stringent back then as it probably is now. And George and Grace say, "Yeah, that would be great. We'll meet you there." So they go to the Hyatt Regency and are shown to the room where the musician is staying. And then lo and behold, the musician is there all dressed in purple. It is the godfather of soul himself, James Brown. And when George approaches him a bit nervous, "Mr. Brown, I have a scrapbook that I wanted to share with you." And Mr. Brown says, "Oh, that's really great, kid, but I'm sorry, I'm really tired right now. But we can meet together at a later date, and I'd be happy to look at your scrapbook with you." "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Brown, I can't do it tomorrow. My sister and I have to go with our family to attend a wedding tomorrow. But would it be okay if I left you the scrapbook, and then you can look at it when you have a chance, and you can contact me and when you're ready, so you can give it back?" "Sure, no problem. And just leave me your contact information so I'll be able to give it back to you," says Brown. So George exchanges his contact information with Mr. Brown and thank him for the time to get to see him and share the scrapbook with him, and they head on home, he and his sister. And the next morning, lo and behold, James Brown's agent calls George on the phone and says, "Mr. Brown really liked your scrapbook. In fact, he liked it so much he would like to offer you and your sister a ride and tickets to his next concert stop at the Civic Center at San Jose." And George and Grace are just look at each other in disbelief. They can't believe their luck. Not only was the guy nice enough to offer to look at George's scrapbook and give it back, but he's actually offering him and Grace a chance to accompany him to his next concert stop. "Absolutely," says George. George finally gets out. Arrangements are made. James Brown himself comes and picks up George and Grace to drive them, and they all go down the highway heading for San Jose. And naturally along the way, as people who are driving realize who's driving in the 1974 Grand Prix, they honk to say hello, and James Brown just waves hello back. And this turned out to be a major stepping stone for George, because this was the start of a friendship that lasted for years up until James Brown's passing. And James Brown also was not only a good friend of George, he also became a good friend of George's family. So he would visit anytime he came to San Francisco for vacation. And that's my story. That's my story in memory of my next door neighbor, who was the George in the story.
It's wonderful to bring our true stories, because we all have little stories that not pass by us, but you have captured that. So thank you so much for sharing your next door neighbor's story of his connecting up with James Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and for the future, that's what we can all remember, that there's these little things in our life that just would make a nugget of a story. Thank you so much.
I just hope I did that story in memory of his justice.
Yes, you did.
Because a few years back, he kind of commissioned me to try and write his biography, but it didn't work out. But that was one of the stories I had in the manuscript.
Yes. Well, that's a compliment to you about your writing skills, that he had faith in you and you have captured some of it. Wonderful. Thank you. Our next teller is Storm, who has a poem, I believe. Yep, he has a poem. So Storm, welcome back to Wordweavers.
Thank you. Well, I will have a poem and a story, as it turns out. A story about how I came to write.
And if you could speak closer to your microphone.
I'm sorry, my voice for some reason suddenly was silent.
Oh, okay. Just do your best. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it must be something in the air. So as it turns out, I have both a story and a poem, and the story is how the poem came to be written. The poem is called The Poet and Love, and it is based on a statue by Rodin. And in 1980, I helped form a Morris team in Western Massachusetts. And for those of you who don't know, Morris dancing is a pre-Celtic form of dancing that's done with hankies and sticks in the Cotswold tradition. And it's done with lines. Usually there's 3 people on each side, and you dance certain figures. And so there's a community of people who do this type of dancing. And when we were forming the team, a particular individual became a member of our team. But later he moved down to Philadelphia, where his parents were. And our Morris team got invited to be with another team in Washington, D.C. for an event. So on the way back to New England, we had to go through Philadelphia. And it was decided that we would take the time to go visit this particular member. And so we did, and he suggested that one of the things we might want to do is go to the local museum. And so we did that. And the reason he wanted us to go to the museum was because they were having an exhibit of Rodin. So we went into a room where there were all sorts of sculptures and works by Rodin. And there was this amazing piece of sculpture called The Poet in Love. And I'm putting, if it will go, a link so you can actually look at the picture of this sculpture. And as I said, it's called The Poet in Love. And this poem somewhat describes what you will see when you look at the sculpture, as well as how I connect it with some of the ideas about love and myself, somewhat, because it's about a poet, and I already by then was a poet. So he is in some ways both the sculpture figure and myself. The Poet in Love, after Rodin. He senses he has lost her. Eyes shut, mouth open, he rests his head against her thigh as she spreads her wings and reaches out, signaling her inevitable departure. Not even his tough grip around her legs can hold her, for she was born to flight, to be caught again and again. Headless, she knows no reason, has no sense of direction, and yet to wriggle away. Already the poet reaches out with his free arm to touch reality, to receive support or condolences. Once more he exposes himself to the world and is made painfully aware that no man, much less one such as he, so set in turmoil, can ever hope to hold love to him for eternity. And if you don't mind, I'll read it one more time. The Poet and Love, after Rodin. He senses he has lost her. Eyes shut, mouth open, he rests his head against her thigh, and she spreads her wings and reaches out, signaling her inevitable departure. Not even his tough grip around her legs can hold her, for she was born to flight, to be caught again and again. Headless, she knows no reason, has no sense of direction, and yet to always wriggle away. Already the poet reaches out with his free arm to touch reality, to receive support or condolences. Once more he exposes himself to the world and is made painfully aware that no man, much less one such as he, so set in turmoil, can ever hope to hold love to him for eternity. And I don't know, Miriam, if you have the expertise. My machine isn't working that well, so I don't dare do it on mine because I might just drop out completely. But if you click on the link, you could possibly bring the image up and screen share it.
Those who are here can save their chat that has the link, and I wrote it down. And it's at the Rodin Museum org. So if they actually start with that and then maybe put in The Poet in Love to submit that a person could possibly get it that way. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that may be an exact direct link too. It may just bring up the picture.
I pushed on it and was able to see the picture with no problem.
Nice, nice. Okay. No, I don't have enough experience to get all that on here. But yeah, so the people who are here live, yeah, they can get onto that site. Thank you so much.
And if anyone doesn't know, if you look at the bottom of chat, you will see a smiley face. And right beside it are three dots and it says more. If you click on that, it will say save chat. And if you click on that, it will save chat up to the point that you click on it. If you want further information that's posted after you've clicked, you have to re-click. And then that,
Yes, and he makes a good point because it'll save it to that point. So let's help each other remember to click on it farther to the end. Click on it now is fine, but also if you want to get more information from whatever else is posted, you'll have to click again. So he's right, and that's a very good point. Thank you so much.
and it downloads to your computer usually in a file called Zoom. Sometimes it'll show up as like a little flip notebook down on your regular computer where you have things like your if you get something from Amazon or your files symbol or that line, sometimes it'll show up as a little flip book there. And in Zoom, unless you've previously set it, it usually comes out as a document, not a download.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mark is back. Welcome, Mark, back to the selling.
Thank you.
And
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. I had horrible technical problems. I couldn't, my microphone and speakers weren't working. So, yay.
So the video's not, but your microphone's on. Okay?
Yes. Is it my turn?
Okay. It's your turn. Thank you. This is Mark Berry. You live in Auburn?
Yes, I'm a member of the Foothills Storytelling Guild.
Yeah. The
I live up
Foothill
clo-
Storytellers. Thank
I
you.
live up close to where they have the Sierra Storytelling Festival every July. So I hope you've all got that on your calendar. It's going to be amazing. Oh, you've got it
All
on your
right.
shirt.
I
Oh, that's
do.
Bay Area.
Okay, so announcements will be after you. Okay?
Okay.
Share now.
Since this is Valentine month, I have a love story, and this love story takes place with my grandmother. I hope I haven't told this one here. If I have, I hope you enjoy hearing it again. I was in well, my grandmother and I, from the moment I was born, we had a very special relationship. It's unconditional love, probably the only time I've really experienced unconditional love in my life. And it was such that when I was in grammar school, just a little guy, Grandma was visiting, Grandma Barry, and uh, she got a sliver somehow in her finger, and it was a pretty nasty one. It was pretty ugly. And of course, both my parents offered to work with it. And Grandma said, "No, I'll let Mark do it." Because she and I had this relationship. We knew that neither of us would ever do anything to hurt each other with our amazing love. And so here I was, just a young kid, and I was fumbling with the tweezers and trying to hold her finger and trying to hold a magnifying glass and trying to hold the tweezers. And I'm sure I didn't do a really good job of getting that spike out. It was a real bad sliver anyway. She didn't feel a thing, and all was well. And that was just the nature of our relationship, and it was very mutual. I'm going to fast forward to when I was in college and she was in a nursing home, and I'd visit her every Saturday when I had a day off, and I wanted to take her out of there, and she only wanted a plain hamburger. I said, "Grandma, you can have anything you want." She said, "No, I want a plain hamburger. No mayonnaise, mustard, no, just a patty and a bun." And she was in seventh heaven when I took her out every Saturday. And of course, we talked, and of course, I was talking about things that 19-year-old college students are dealing with, teachers and grades and housing and girlfriends and all this kind of stuff. And she listened beautifully with our loving relationship. And when I drop her off, she'd find a corner of a piece of paper somewhere and tear it off, and she'd scribble something on it and stick it in my shirt pocket. And
when I got home, I'd pull it out. I knew what it was because it happened every time. It was a Bible verse. It was chapter and verse, but I'd have to go look it up. And every single time I'd look up that chapter and verse, and the Bible said something pertinent to my problem right then, something that really helped me. She really knew her Bible, and she really knew her grandson. And I knew I was her favorite. She had 5 kids. She had a dozen grandkids, my cousins all over the place. But we had this special relationship, and I knew that I was her favorite. But of course, it wouldn't do to tell my cousins. That just wouldn't be the nice thing to do. Fast forward to when she passed away, and we're having a funeral, and all of our parents grabbed a table at the reception, and so all of us grandkids grabbed a table to be with our own age group. And oh, we were trying to catch up, and we were all sad, and she was our favorite, all of us. And my cousin Kathy was just inconsolable. She was just sobbing, and through the sobs, she accidentally let slip that she knew that she was Grandma's favorite. Well, my eyes got big and looked around the room, and everybody else's eyes got big and looked around the room. We started comparing notes, and every single one of her 12 grandchildren knew that we were her absolute favorite, and it just wouldn't do to tell the rest. So during this month, when we celebrate a holiday that's all about love, I just wanted to mention my grandmother, because she's the example that I try to what's the word? Try to not adhere, emulate. She's the example that I try to emulate when I think about love and being a loving and kind person. So that's the story of Grandma Barry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome.
Indeed, if we all could let everybody we know that we meet, really.
I want you to all think you're my favorite. That's what I want.
Okay. Hey, I'm your favorite, right?
You are.
We're just, yeah, friends with common interests, and we enjoy each other's company. That's why we're here today. Thank you.
Yes.
I am amiss that we need to give credit. I failed to give my credit, so here it is. The story of the rain hat comes from this book, but she's also got it in a few other places. So this is by Nancy Schimmel, and I've talked to her personally, and she has given me permission to tell a number of the different stories in here, just enough to make a story. Nancy Schimmel lives in Oakland, and Bobby's smiling because she knows her too, and she's been part of the Storytelling Association and in relationship with us as friends for many, many years. Yeah, she was one of the original SAC people, I'd say. Is that right, Bobby? Yeah.
I
Marianne,
interact with her on a regular basis on Zoom, so I'll have to try to remember that you told this
Oh,
story.
Storm does. Okay. And Bobby, what?
Marianne,
Yes.
we had a call-in person. I don't know who it is, but we might want to check and see if they have a story for us.
I checked on that, and it was Mark.
Oh, okay. So he's in. Okay, good.
Is that right?
Actually, it's me.
Oh, it's
Hi,
Diamond.
I came in late. Sorry, I caught the last 2 and they were very good. So, yeah, hope I'm not too late for the party.
Okay. Never. Okay. So, yeah, we are finishing up our story. So we're going to say goodbye. Yeah, we're going to greet Diamond here in a moment. So welcome. We're going to sign off for the recording today. And so thank you, YouTubers, for listening to Delta Wordweavers today. Announcement is in March, on March 15th, Sunday, second Sunday afternoon, 2:00. We have a workshop in March with Heather Forrest. She's a national storytelling gem. She tells all the time at the National Storytelling Festival, and she is our workshop leader for March. It's about voice as instrument. So she's going to talk about our voice and other things to use to enrich the story you already have. So it's free. That's the good thing. We would usually pay good money to go to one of her workshops. So it's free on Delta Wordweavers next month. Right this minute, I can't speak up if it'll be recorded or not because I don't have that word from her as yet. But do come live and you're guaranteed a seat. Email Marion to sign up. That's just to help Heather and I know how many people are coming, and it'll be a workshop. And I will be sending, all of you are on my list. And so you and others will get the automatic real soon. So you know more about it, what it is, and can reserve the day. And somebody like Mark can share it with the rest of his folk. Hint, hint. Okay, goodbye to the YouTubers. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.